Okay, welcome back to the channel. We're going to start the Allis Chalmers up today. You can see we've had some snow. It's kind of cold. It's about 31 degrees out, according to the thermometer. We'll go in the shop here, though. The tractor is sitting in the shop. And we'll go see what the temperature is here in the shop. Get inside here. Turn some lights on real quick. This is my temporary way of my lights and stuff here in the shop. I'm not putting any more lights in the shop until I get the rest of my insulation put in here. Once I get the rest of the insulation, then I'll put my permanent wiring and permanent lights in. Go over here and look at the thermometer. My George L. Wilson concrete curing thermometer says it's right about 40 degrees right now in here. There sits my 185 farm tractor. There sits my 185 pulling tractor. We're going to try and start the farm tractor up today. Again, 40 degrees. I'll tell you just a little bit about this tractor before I start it. I have overhauled the engine on it. That's a 301 diesel right there. It's an in-frame overhaul, so I put everything new in except I did not pull the cam out of it, and I did not pull the front main seal out of it. I did not pull the crank out of it. New rear main seal. New clutch, changed the flywheel, put the flywheel off of the pulling tractor on this tractor because it was in better shape. I overhauled the injection pump, and I say overhauled. I did it myself. All I did was put all new seals in it and stuff, and put a new cam ring in it. The cam ring that was in there, the lobes were worn down because I was running this pump as my pulling pump on the pulling tractor, and I had taken the spring out of it and ran it without a spring, and by doing that, the rollers in the plungers rode the cam and had the lobes worn off on the top of the cam, and it hadn't run very many hours. I mean, we're only talking 5, 6, 10 hours. And it's already had started to wear on the cam. I was really surprised. Someone told me when I did that was what was going to happen. And yes, sir, that's what happened. It wore it down in no time at all. So anyway, I put another cam in there. And the cam that I put in there, I think, is a high lift cam. So, and simply because I overlaid one cam over top the other, and there was a good amount difference in the height of the lobes on the cam. So I'm pretty certain the cam that I put in there was a high lift cam because it come out of a pump that a guy sold me. He had used it for pulling and told me that it was built up for pulling. So anyway, I don't know what the output of this pump is. I have no way of testing it, obviously. All I did was slam parts in it. I could take it to a pump shop and have them put it on a machine and flow test it, and then I'd know what it is. But it doesn't matter. The tractor runs, so that's what counts. The reason I overhauled that pump was the tractor wasn't getting enough. You could tell it was low on power. So I figured I'd just overhaul that pump and put it back to close to stock. It's not stock because of the cam, but it's close anyway. So other than that, it's new pistons, new liners, new mains and rod bearings, new wrist pin bushings. Terrible time finding wrist pin bushings. Holy cow. Couldn't believe it took me like 2 months to gather up 6 wrist pin bushings. Had a terrible time finding them. Couldn't believe that. Maybe things have changed better now, but I don't know. If you're going to overhaul 301, you better check on wrist pin bushings first before you go tearing anything apart. So anyway, So a lot of people have been putting videos or asking questions about, how do you start a diesel engine in the wintertime, and how much ether to use, and how much this. And if you can at all get away from it, don't use any ether ever. The best way is to plug the block heater in. Well, that was on the other side. I could have showed you. But here's the preheater coil for an Allis Chalmers. Now, a lot of these guys call these things glow plugs. This is not a glow plug. Glow plug goes in your head or somewhere in your block or in your motor that preheats the piston chamber, and when it comes up and fires, the heat from that glow plug fires your fuel the first couple times until it builds a little bit of heat and starts to run. The way this one works, there's a coil in here. It's an electric coil in here, and when you put power to it, it heats up and it heats the air, and the air gets up in here, and heat rises. I doubt very much goes down in here, but it gets a little charge of warm air up in here. When it gets this charge of warm air, then it sucks it in and sucks it into the motor, and that warm air is what helps create the combustion for your cold start on an engine. It is not a glow plug per se, what the term glow plug would mean. So anyway, we're going to jump up on here, and we're going to see how she starts. And I'll just show you how I do mine. And typically what I do, I had that up by my for sale sign. I got a machine I'm trying to sell, and I had it up by the road there the other day. The way I do mine is when it's this cold, I'll do it for 60 seconds on preheat. So we'll preheat her here, and I got a count in my head. There's just no way around. I don't have anything to time with. There's about 77 minutes and 10 seconds or so. We'll see how she starts. Almost. We'll give her a little charge of heat again. Give her about 30 seconds this time. There's about 30. We'll give her again. Now that's the right way to start a tractor. The one thing I could have done, which I got ahead of myself a little bit, hold the fuel shut off. Keep it shut off till I spun the motor a couple times, built a little bit of heat while I was spinning the motor, then pull that out and allow fuel to start in. That's another way. That's a good way of doing it. There, I'll just shut that off. That's how you start them, though. Anyway, but that's a good way of doing it. I was taught that years and years ago when I worked out on construction around heavy equipment. The old Caterpillars and stuff with pony motors on it, stuff like that, would be, you'd crank your diesel engine over with the pony motor and get it cranking, then throw your compression lever to build compression and let that build compression for 30 seconds, depending how cold it is, maybe a minute, then crack your fuel open and introduce fuel into the cylinder, and they'll start better that way also. A lot easier. You don't have to use ether on them that way either. Of course, out on construction, you don't. No, I didn't. I tried not to do it, but a lot of guys, they didn't own the machine. They didn't care. Spin it over. If they had ether, they'd throw a bunch of ether at it, and the valves would rattle, and it would clack and clang and stuff until it got running, and just fire it off and let it go at that. Obviously, it shortened the life of the engine. I guarantee you that. Ether's hard on engines, and I'll show you here in a second or so after I get off the tractor here what it can do. This, like I say, this particular engine, I did overhaul it, so and I've got probably 4 or 5 hours on this engine now since I have overhauled it. So I would say I'm at not the most compression I'm ever going to get. The rings may seat in a little bit more, but it's got very, very good compression. I'm getting 0 blow-by out of the oil fill or out of the breather. I got a tremendous amount of blow-by before I overhauled the engine. This did have a burnt exhaust valve in it. I could hear it whispering when it was running, and then because of the blow-by, that's what made me take to overhauling the engine. Here's the liners that came out of the engine, and hopefully you can see this down. This is number 6 liner. You can see that black streak going up and down there. You can really feel that. It's deep in that. I think number 4 here, it had a black streak in it. When I initially, there's the pistons and the wrist pins right there. Here's what the pistons look like. Pistons were all good. There's nothing wrong with the pistons. Technically, I could have used them over. Them were all excellent. Them are good pistons. Nothing wrong with them. But this, when I first saw this, I thought, aha, I'm going to have a cracked ring on there, a broken ring. And that's what made that mark. But that was not it. When I took them apart, there wasn't a broken ring on a single one of them. Now, these liners are wore out. The hash marks from the honing and stuff, there's nothing. They're bright and shiny down in there. And that's where I was getting my blow-by. But those marks right there, that mark was more than like, because I went to the machine shop that overhauled my head. They're a speed shop. They do hot rods, engines, and all that kind of stuff. You know, and I said to them what I had, and he said that was probably overuse, abuse of ether is probably what caused that. So there's the kinds of things that ether can cause you. But if you're going to start up a Allis Chalmers, any Allis Chalmers diesel, any diesel, and it doesn't matter if it be Allis Chalmers, I just happen to have an Allis Chalmers. Any diesel engine, that's what you want to do, is you want to preheat them good. Plug the block heater in is the best way. On a cold day like today, I should have had the block heater plugged in. That would have been, and it would start it like it was, summertime. But you can start them like you saw what I did there, with the preheater, with glow plugs, with that, Oh, one thing I did want to mention about this glow plug here. The Dodge Cummins has a preheater, the 6.7 engine. And I don't own a Dodge Cummins, so I'm going from what I've read and what I see on the internet. They have a 6.7 Cummins that has the turbos are down here on the side, and the pipe the charge pipe that comes up over into the intake comes up over somehow over top the motor. But in that, there is a preheater that preheats the air, just the same as this system does right here. It preheats the air before you start the motor. Banks, Gale Banks has a system now to eliminate the Dodge preheater because they come loose. They come loose, get sucked into the intake, and end up in number 6 piston. The nut comes off, and the nut ends up in the piston inside that motor, and it chews the piston up and ruins your motor. Gale Banks is using this exact same coil heater that's in the Allis Chalmers. Now it doesn't. Boy, that's nice and warm, right there too. From all that preheating, that's really nice and warm. They are using this type of a coil to replace that factory original Dodge preheater to preheat your motors with, and he guarantees that this one that it'll never come loose, it'll never never cause damage to your motor, which I thought was pretty neat. This tractor is a 1977. That tractor there is a 1973. My pulling tractor, it's a 1973 Allis, and they were using those coils way back then. You know, Gil Banks is putting this out like, you know, this is something new that we invented, and I thought, that's just the same thing recycled, just over again, you know, which is cool. That's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, so there you are. That's starting up a Allis Chalmers diesel engine or any other diesel engine when it's cold out. Anything below this 40 degrees in the shop here, and I'd have plugged it in for sure for at least an hour or longer. And then they start, like they start like summertime then. But that's it. There's no more to say. If you have questions or thinking about, you know, how do you start your engine or stuff, there's the correct way. Like I say, the only thing I did wrong up there being this cold, I should have spun it over and built some heat in the pistons first before I pulled the fuel cable out to allow fuel to enter the engine. I should have done that first, but I got ahead of myself. I do that all the time anymore. I'm old. But I get ahead of myself that way. But anyway, that, and then preheat it good. You know, and once you put the fuel in there, and then, you know, it's a little bit easier. But the preheating worked. So anyway, there you go. That's starting an Allis Chalmers 301 diesel engine at 40 degrees. Hope this helps somebody, gives you some ideas, gives you some confidence in what you're doing. Like they say, if I can do it, you can do it. There you go. Thanks for watching. God bless you.